All right, let's dive right in. We're going to take a look deep inside our own genetic code, into a hidden world that, honestly, scientists are only just starting to map out. It's a discovery that's literally rewriting the textbooks on what we thought we knew about biology. This is gonna be fascinating. So, for as long as I can remember, we've been told that something like 98% of our DNA is, well, useless, just junk, a kind of genetic wasteland we carry around. But what if that was just completely, fundamentally wrong? What if the biggest secrets were hiding right there in plain sight?
You see, for years, the official term was junk DNA. That's what scientists called these huge, non-coding parts of our genome. The thinking was pretty simple. If a piece of DNA doesn't give instructions for building a protein, then it must just be leftover evolutionary baggage. And for a very long time, that's just what everyone accepted.
So you have to ask, why did we miss what was really going on for so long? Well, it turns out it came down to a kind of arbitrary rule scientists had set for themselves. They basically decided that for a gene to count as a real gene, it had to be long enough to code for at least 100 amino acids. Anything shorter, it just got ignored, thrown into the junk pile. It was this massive blind spot in how we were reading our own blueprint.
But then, technology caught up. New tools emerged that let us look at what some people were calling genomic dark matter, with totally fresh eyes. We could finally zoom in and analyze those short little sequences that we'd been overlooking forever. And what they found? Well, it's kicking off a revolution in biochemistry.
So what was the big secret hiding in all that junk? Well, it was thousands and thousands of tiny, previously invisible molecules. They're called microproteins, and they are absolutely functional proteins. They're just smaller, way smaller than that old 100 amino acid cutoff that scientists had been using. And listen, we are not talking about just a handful of these things. Right now, researchers have found really strong evidence for about 7,000 of them in the human body, and almost everyone agrees this is just the tip of the iceberg. There are probably thousands, maybe tens of thousands more, just waiting to be found. This is a massive update to our own biological map. And don't let the micro part fool you. These aren't insignificant little molecules. The early research is showing that they are incredibly powerful regulators. They play these critical roles in, well, everything, from our metabolism to the absolute most basic functions of our cells. The biggest challenge now is a really exciting one, just figuring out what on earth they all do. So let's look at a few examples, right? Some of the most amazing discoveries so far have been in metabolism. It seems these tiny molecules are acting like powerful puppet masters, pulling the strings on things like hunger and how we store fat. And that, of course, could open up completely new ways to treat some major health problems. Okay, check this out. This comes from the Salk Institute. Researchers were scanning fat tissue, and they stumbled upon this microprotein called GM8773. Turns out it's made in the hypothalamus, the part of your brain that's basically the control center for your appetite. So what did they do? They gave this tiny protein to obese mice and boom, the mice started eating way more. It was like they found a literal appetite switch.
And you can immediately see the real-world potential here, right? Just imagine a therapy based on this little protein that could help cancer patients who are suffering from that awful chemotherapy-induced weight loss. It's a straight line from this super fundamental research to a direct clinical application. It's amazing.
Here's another incredible before and after story. Using CRISPR, the gene editing tool, the same team was hunting for other microproteins in fat cells. They found one, a bit of a mouthful, called adipocyte smorph 1183. Before this, the little piece of DNA that makes it was considered, yeah, you guessed it, a totally insignificant piece of junk. Now, we know it's a key molecule that directly tells our cells how to store fat. And the implications of that are just huge. I mean, by figuring out how this one microprotein works, scientists suddenly have a whole new angle of attack for metabolic diseases. This could lead to brand new treatments for obesity and diabetes that work in ways that are completely different from anything we have today. But it's not just about metabolism. Let's pivot for a second, because these microproteins are also showing up as these secret controllers for the absolute most fundamental machinery inside every single one of our cells.
For example, researchers at Yale found a microprotein they called -60. And its job is it's so cool. It basically acts as a quality control inspector for our ribosomes. And remember, ribosomes are the tiny factories that build all the other proteins in our cells. So -60 steps in, temporarily hits the pause button on the assembly line, and makes sure all the parts are put together perfectly before the factory is allowed to go online. It's a tiny manager making sure this massive, critical operation runs without a hitch. And get this, Talk about genetic efficiency. The gene that actually codes for meniscus 60, it overlaps with the gene for a totally different, much larger protein. So the same exact stretch of DNA is doing double duty. It's producing two completely different molecules that have two completely different jobs. I mean, that just reveals a whole new layer of complexity in our genome that we never even knew was possible.
So, when you step back, what does all of this really mean? Well, we're not just finding a few new molecules here and there. We are uncovering an entirely new dimension of biological control that's been completely hidden from us until right now. This is a genuinely new frontier. You know, this quote from Alan Sagatalian at the Salk Institute, he's one of the main researchers in this field, it just says it all. This isn't just a small step forward. This is discovering a whole other layer of how life works, how it's regulated at the most basic level. It's a true paradigm shift.
So, let's just do a quick recap. What have we really learned here? First, junk DNA is one of the worst names ever. It's actually a treasure trove that codes for thousands of these powerful little microproteins. We've seen that these molecules regulate huge things like appetite and fat storage, and tiny things like our basic cell machinery. And really, the big takeaway is that this discovery fundamentally changes how we see our own genetic blueprint.
And when we look to the future, the potential is it's breathtaking. Every single new microprotein that we identify and figure out is another potential new target for a medical therapy. This could unlock brand new treatments for some of the biggest health challenges we have. We're talking obesity, diabetes, cancer, maybe even neurodegenerative diseases.
And all of this leaves us with one final, just incredible question. You know, after thinking for so long that we had the book of life more or less figured out, we've just found out that it contains thousands of hidden chapters we never knew existed. So, what other amazing secrets are still in there, waiting for us, written in the language of our own DNA?